We will talk in this session about the brainstem. The brainstem is bound superiorly by the diencephalon and inferiorly by spinal cord. The brainstem is composed of three major parts: the midbrain and pons and medulla oblongata. We talk first about the general features of each part of the brainstem from anterior aspect and posterior aspect. Then we talk about the nerves emerging from the anterior and posterior aspects of each part of brainstem. First we start with the midbrain. As appeared in the picture and the model. The midbrain dominated anteriorly by cerebral peduncle, and between the cerebral peduncles there is the interpeduncular fossa. The cerebral peduncle represents the descending pathway of the corticospinal tracts and corticobulbar tracts. Corticospinal arising from motor nuclei in the cerebral cortex frontal lobe to the anterior horn of the spinal cord, and corticobulbar from the motor nuclei of the cerebral cortex to the cranial motor nuclei in the brainstem. So the corticospinal and corticobulbar descend downwards internally through the cerebral peduncles. In between the cerebral peduncle there is interpeduncular fossa. These are the cerebral peduncles, and in between the interpeduncular fossa. Posteriorly we have four structures that are called colliculi, two superior colliculi and two inferior colliculi. As appeared in the picture, two superior colliculi and two inferior colliculi. The superior colliculi is the pleura and one is the superior colliculus, is responsible for visual function, and inferior colliculi are responsible for auditory function. Okay? Regarding the cranial nerves related to the midbrain, first we have the cranial nerve number 3, which is the oculomotor nerve, arising anteriorly from the interpeduncular fossa that is located between the cerebral peduncles, and posteriorly we have the trochlear nerve arising below the inferior colliculi. This is the trochlear nerve, fourth cranial nerve arising posteriorly below the inferior colliculi, and the third cranial nerve arising anteriorly in the interpeduncular fossa. As appeared in the model, the third cranial nerve, oculomotor nerve, arising anteriorly in the interpeduncular fossa, and posteriorly we have the trochlear nerve arising below the inferior colliculi. Then we go to the second part of brainstem, which is the pons. This is the pons. This pons anteriorly, the pons posteriorly, as appearing in the model. This is the pons anteriorly and posteriorly. And this is the pons posteriorly. Really, the pons is related posteriorly to the structure called the cerebellum. This is the cerebellum. There's a relation between the anterior aspect of the cerebellum and posterior aspect of brainstem, specifically the pons and upper part of medulla oblongata. There is the specific relationship. Okay? Anteriorly, the pons is dominated by ventral gross enlargement. Also, represents the descending pathway of corticospinal and corticobulbar tracts. Posteriorly, we have rhomboid fossa. This is rhomboid fossa, representing the floor of fourth ventricle. As appearing in the model, this is the gross enlargement of the pons anteriorly, and this is posteriorly. This is the rhomboid fossa. There are three important structures called cerebellar peduncles, not cerebral peduncles. Cerebral peduncles are located in the midbrain, cerebellar peduncles located in the pons. Cerebellar peduncles represent the connection pathway between the pons and brainstem in general and the cerebellum. First we have the superior cerebellar peduncle, this is the boundary of it, and inferior cerebellar peduncle and middle cerebellar peduncle. The same in the model. This is the superior cerebellar peduncle. This is the inferior cerebellar peduncle, and the middle cerebellar peduncle. Okay. Also, this is the rhomboid fossa. There should be the fourth ventricle, which is located between the pons anteriorly and cerebellum posteriorly. Regarding the cranial nerve related to the pons, first we have the fifth cranial nerve, which is the trigeminal nerve, having motor and main motor nerve root and main sensory nerve, arising anterolaterally from the mid-pons. Okay, also appearing in the model, this is the trigeminal nerve arising anterolaterally from the mid-pons. Then we go to the sixth cranial nerve, which is the abducent nerve arising from pontomedullary junction between the pons superiorly and medulla oblongata inferiorly, from just adjacent to the midline. Most medial one is the abducent nerve. Then laterally to the abducent nerve is the facial nerve. Then lateral to facial nerve is the vestibulocochlear nerve. As we have here in the model, this is the abducent nerve, cranial nerve number 6. Laterally to it is the seventh cranial nerve, which is the facial nerve. Laterally to the facial nerve is the vestibulocochlear nerve. Okay, I repeat, this trigeminal nerve, abducent, facial, and vestibulocochlear nerve. Then we have the last part of medulla oblongata, which is the last part of the brainstem, which is medulla oblongata. Medulla oblongata dominated anteriorly by structure called pyramids, gross elevation, gross enlargement, called pyramid. This is the pyramids. Pyramid represents the descending pathway of the pyramidal tract or the corticospinal tract. Here in the model is the pyramid. Laterally to the pyramid, there is a small structure looks like olive, called olive. Represents the presence of inferior olivary nucleus. This is the pyramid, and lateral to the pyramid is the olive. Okay. Then posteriorly we have first tubercle of nucleus gracilis, most medial, and lateral to the tubercle of nucleus gracilis is the tubercle of nucleus cuneatus. As we have in the model, here is the tubercle of nucleus gracilis, most medial, and lateral to it is the tubercle of nucleus cuneatus. Tubercle of nucleus gracilis is the continuation of fasciculus gracilis, which is present in the spinal cord, fasciculus gracilis, responsible for deep sensation of the lower part of the body. Tubercle of nucleus cuneatus is the continuation of fasciculus cuneatus, which is also present in the spinal cord, responsible for the deep sensation like pressure, vibration, position, fine touch of the upper part of the body. Regarding the cranial nerves, first we have the glossopharyngeal nerve arising inferior-laterally to the vestibulocochlear nerve. Okay? Here in the model, really it is not apparent so much, so it depends on the picture. This is the glossopharyngeal nerve, cranial nerve number 9. Then we have the vagus nerve, which is located laterally to the olive. This is the olive, this is the pyramid, this is the olive, and this is the vagus nerve located laterally to the olive. The vagus nerve, cranial nerve number 10.